What if time isn't what we think it is? What if the ticking clock is not a master, but a mirror? And Albert Einstein knew this, not because he read it, but because he remembered it. Somewhere deep in the silence, where normal minds get lost, he built bridges, not of steel, but of thought. And on those bridges, he walked between seconds like they were stairs. And the world called it theory, but to him, it was memory. Because the universe doesn't speak in minutes, it speaks in motion. And motion doesn't obey clocks, it obeys consciousness. And Einstein understood that the mind that is structured can bend anything, even time. And that bending begins not with genius, but with stillness. The kind of stillness that doesn't wait, but listens. The kind that hears the hum beneath the ticking, the voice beneath the logic. And in that voice, Einstein found the shape of truth, not in words, but in patterns, because patterns are the native language of reality, and most people never hear it. Not because it's silent, but because they're scattered. Scattered by fear, scattered by noise, scattered by the story they've been told that they are small, that they are late, that they are bound by time. But Einstein refused that story. He rewrote it with presence. And presence is the weapon against the clock. Presence is the tool that doesn't just manage time, it masters it. Because when you are present, you're not moving through time. Time is moving through you. And in that shift, everything changes. Everything opens, and the walls of the moment expand into maps, into portals, into plans. And Einstein's mind lived in those maps. His thoughts were not random. They were ritual. Each idea a door, each question a key. And the more he asked, the more the structure appeared. Not in textbooks, but in the tension of unspoken truths. And he stayed in that tension while others ran, and in the pressure of uncertainty he forged precision. And that's the secret most people miss. They think clarity comes from answers, but clarity comes from commitment. Commitment to stand inside the unknown long enough for it to shape you. And Einstein stood longer than anyone. He waited not passively, but architecturally building inner scaffolding, so strong that truth had no choice but to land. And when it landed, he didn't hoard it. He shaped it into freedom. Because freedom is not the absence of time, it is the ability to design it, and you can design it too, not with calendars, but with consciousness. Because your mind is the first machine that warps time. When it is aligned, it accelerates. When it is scattered, it stalls. And every moment becomes either expansion or erosion. And the choice is not about speed. The choice is about structure. And Einstein built his mind like a cathedral. Not loud, not large, but sacred. And in that sacredness, time softened. It bent. It bowed. And most people will never know that power, because they treat time like a cage, not like clay. But clay can be shaped, and Einstein shaped it into theories. Yes, but more importantly, into freedom. The freedom to think without permission. The freedom to listen beyond the surface. The freedom to bend the world instead of break under it. And you have that freedom too, if you dare to return to stillness, to structure, to the silence between seconds. Because inside that silence is not emptiness, it is entry. And entry is everything. It is the door to genius, the gate to God, the staircase to self. And Einstein climbed it, not with muscles, but with mind. And that climb made him timeless. And if you want to join him, if you want to unlock the genius that waits in you, you must let go of the lie that you're behind. And realize that you are exactly where time wants you to be, not to chase it, but to reshape it. Go get it. What if the greatest discoveries were not made through noise, but through silence? What if Albert Einstein didn't hear the secrets of the universe in classrooms or conversations, but in the void between questions, the stillness between facts, where most people panic, where the ordinary mind grows restless? He grew reverent because silence was his teacher, and that silence wasn't empty. It was encrypted, and most minds run from it because they fear what they'll find. Einstein ran toward it because he knew that the silence holds the structure, the sacred geometry behind all creation, the formula beneath the formulas. And in that space, time doesn't tick, it listens. And he learned how to listen with it, not just to it. He learned that silence has rhythm, and rhythm has reason, and reason has revelation. And that revelation came not in shouts, but in sequences that unfolded slowly, like galaxies spinning in his mind. And he didn't rush them because he knew that the deeper the silence, the higher the truth. And that's where you must go too, not to escape sound, but to enter source. Because the source of your power is not in how loud you are, but in how aligned you are. And alignment can't be faked. It's built in quiet. It's forged in focus. And most people fear focus because it requires shedding layers. The ego, the doubt, the noise, the roles, the false urgencies. And Einstein shed them all every day. He stripped himself of the superficial so he could step into the structural. And in that, not the absence of movement, it is the presence of meaning. And meaning is the only thing that survives time. And Einstein knew that, which is why he built everything from the inside out. Because the outside will always fluctuate, but the inner world is yours to frame, to fortify, to focus. And he focused not to narrow, but to enter. He didn't close his mind, he channeled it. And that channel became a current of thought, so pure, it carved equations into the very structure of the cosmos. And those equations weren't just math, they were mirrors. And every mirror he built reflected the way. Same thing that reality is not random. It is responsive. It responds to presence. It bends to pattern. It reveals itself to those who wait with willingness. And he waited not with passivity, but with preparation. Every moment of silence, a seed. Every pause, a portal. Every breath, a blueprint. And most people miss that because they think thinking is the key, but it's not. It's listening. Listening with the soul, not the ears. With structure, not panic. With posture, not pride. And you must learn to listen that way because silence doesn't give its gifts to the loud. It gives them to the aligned. And alignment is a choice, not a personality, not a privilege. It is a practice. And that practice begins when you stop treating silence as punishment and start treating it as a platform. Because that platform will carry you into realms no motivation can reach. It will show you things no information can teach. And it will awaken in you what no one can give. Because it was never outside you, it was always within. And now is your time to step into that within. Not to find yourself, but to form yourself. To hear the patterns others miss. To structure the stillness until it becomes power. Because power is not volume, it is vibration. And Einstein vibrated differently, not because of what he knew, but because of what he tuned into. And you can tune in too, not with effort, but with entry into silence. The kind of silence that solves everything without saying anything. Go get it. What if Albert Einstein never chased answers, but saw them before they were born? What if the real genius wasn't his mind, but his vision? Not what he saw with eyes, but what he saw with structure. And vision is not imagination. It is alignment with truth, not yet visible. And most people think vision is fantasy. But for Einstein, it was frequency, something he tuned into when the rest of the world tuned out. Because vision does not appear in the noise, appears in the geometry of discipline. And that's what he built, not just thoughts, but the inner architecture of awareness. And in that architecture, his vision expanded, not because of effort, while sculpting their soul into a shape that reality cannot ignore. And he did this relentlessly, not with stress, but with sacred intensity. Because he knew that vision is not found, it is formed. And formation begins with what you eliminate. He removed the unnecessary until only the essential remained. And what remained became clarity, and clarity became power. Not power over people, but power over perception. And when you can shape perception, you can shape possibilities. And he saw possibilities where others saw walls. And he walked through those walls not because he was lucky, but because he was lensed, not in fantasy, but in frequency. Because frequency is the true material of all creation. And you don't attract what you want. You attract what you're structured to sustain. And Einstein didn't just attract ideas. He became the space where ideas arrived. And most people block that space with urgency, with insecurity, with imitation. But he emptied his space so completely, it became a vessel for genius, and genius is not chaos, it is code. And that code reveals itself in patterns, in pulses, in flashes of alignment that feel like luck, but are really the result of inner scaffolding. And that scaffolding was sacred to him. His rituals were invisible but precise. And in those rituals, he found rhythm. And in that rhythm came the revelation of resonance. Because once you resonate with truth, you no longer chase it. You carry it, and others feel it, and the universe reflects it, and time bends for it, and results respond to it. Not because you work harder, but because you are vibrating at the velocity of vision. And vision bends time because it bypasses doubt, it collapses delay, it turns potential into portals. And Einstein moved through those portals. While others asked for proof, he was embodying patterns, and those patterns became his path. And you have patterns too, either by design or default. And if your life feels stuck, it's not because you lack talent. It's because your pattern is unrefined, and refinement is your responsibility. Because the vision you carry is bigger than you, and vision requires vessels strong enough to hold it. And Einstein became a vessel by choosing stillness over speed, simplicity over spectacle, truth over tradition. And in those choices, he found freedom. Not freedom from rules, but freedom from reaction. Because reaction destroys vision, and response unlocks it. And now it's your time to unlock it, to refine your lens, to reshape your life. Perception to see before others see, to know before others prove, to become the blueprint before the results arrive. And that blueprint is built in silence, in presence, in patience, in patterned becoming. And if you are willing to become the pattern, the future will fold into you. Because the future is not out there. It's waiting for the one whose vision is clean enough to call it. Go get it. What if discipline isn't about control, but about conduction? What if Albert Einstein didn't master formulas, but mastered the field within himself, where every thought, every habit, every silence became a wire carrying divine electricity? And most people think genius is a flash, but genius is a circuit. And that circuit only works when you remove the noise, when you clear the static, when you build your inner space like a laboratory of becoming. And Einstein wasn't messy. He was precise, not in personality, but in pattern. He understood that thought must be measured, that vision must be maintained. Clarity must be cultivated daily. And that's the discipline nobody talks about. The invisible order behind greatness. The alignment behind power. The sacred rituals behind revelation. Isn't pressure, it's prophecy. It's the call of your future, pulling you into preparation. And preparation is the proof that you're serious. Because the universe doesn't deliver destiny to the unstructured. It delivers it to the ready. And Einstein became ready, not by force, but by frequency. He tuned himself day after day to the vibration of precision. And most people want the results, but they don't want the refinement. But he refined relentlessly. He stripped everything that didn't serve the signal he was called to carry. And that signal became so clean that truth had no choice but to enter. And you must clean your signal too, not just by removing distractions, but by choosing devotion. Devotion to clarity, to structure, to sacred solitude. Because solitude is not loneliness, it is location, the place where design happens. And he lived in that location, not as an escape, but as a laboratory. And from that lab came not just theories, but timelines. New ways of thinking, new ways of being, new roads through. Mental space that most people never access because they're too addicted to stimulation. And stimulation kills signal. It drowns it in comparison and reaction and noise. And Einstein didn't compete, he composed. And composition requires silence, structure, vision, and above all, discipline. And discipline is not punishment, it is proof. It is alignment in motion. And when you live aligned, the world doesn't speed up, it shifts. It shapes itself around your structure. And that's the law Einstein lived by. Not the law of physics, but the law of personal formation. And that law is simple. What you do in the invisible becomes the visible. What you build in silence becomes the sound of your legacy. And legacy is not left, it is. Lived, and living it means choosing again and again to protect your power, not with armor, but with awareness. And awareness is the first layer of discipline. Because when you become aware of your patterns, you can reshape them. And when you reshape your patterns, you shift your path. And Einstein shifted everything by shifting himself. And that shift didn't require permission, only precision. And precision is born in stillness, in order, in ritual, in refinement, in the daily decision to show up for your future before it arrives. Because your future isn't waiting, it's watching, and it only appears when you become the type of structure it can survive in. And you are the builder, you are the vessel, you are the lab, and the light, and the one who must decide if your discipline will be your design, or if delay will be your excuse. And if you choose design, you don't just change your life, you change how time behaves around you. Go get it. What if Albert Einstein didn't just understand reality? What if he restructured it, not with tools, not with titles, but with thought? Thought so pure, it pierced the illusion of separation. Thought so aligned, it bent the walls of what we call truth. Because truth isn't static, truth is shapeable. And Einstein knew that. Reality doesn't respond to knowledge. It responds to resonance. And resonance doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from thinking deeper. Deeper into silence, into pattern, into presence, into precision. And most people never go that deep because they're trained to live on the surface. But Einstein dove beneath the surface until thought became geometry, until energy became language, until vision became form. And what he discovered wasn't just a theory of relativity. It was a revelation of responsibility. Because once you realize that reality responds to the way you structure your mind, you can no longer blame time or talent or anyone else, because the only thing between you and transcendence is coherence. And coherence is built when every part of you moves in alignment. When your thoughts, your breath, your actions, your beliefs all become one rhythm. And he lived in that rhythm, not once, not briefly, but daily. And from that rhythm emerged portals. Portals into new perception, into unseen patterns, into unspoken power. And he didn't keep those portals for himself. He opened them for the world, not to impress, but to awaken. And awakening is what this story has always been about. Not becoming Einstein, but becoming the version of you that stops reacting and starts reconstructing. Because you are not here to fit in. You are here to bend reality, not by force, but by frequency. And your frequency rises with refinement. When you choose silence over noise, structure over chaos, depth over distraction, presence over panic. And those choices don't make you smarter. They make you sovereign. And sovereignty is when your internal world becomes stronger than the external. When your thoughts become scaffolding, and your beliefs become bridges, and your focus becomes fire. And that fire is what fuels genius. Not the facts, but the fire behind them. And Einstein had that fire. Not because he was gifted, but because he was guided. And guidance only comes to those who are still enough to hear it, strong enough to hold it, sharp enough to shape it. And he shaped it into equations. Yes, but more than that, he shaped it into an invitation to awaken, to ascend, to align. And now that invitation is in your hands. And the question is not, are you ready? The question is, will you remember? Remember the truth that you don't find power, you form it. That the future is not waiting, it's watching, and will only unfold for the one who is structured enough to receive it. And now, you must become that structure. The bridge between thought and timeline, the temple of patience, the rhythm of intelligence, the being who bends reality by becoming the design it responds to. Go get it.